Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, and things adjacent. I said I was probably going to do a live stream today, but I just I don't have it in me. It was just a busy couple of days, and I'm kind of like faded out, and yeah, I just don't have the wind up to do a live stream today. So I think I'm going to do it tomorrow night. So here's your 24-hour notice. I'll probably do it tomorrow night, hopefully around maybe 7 p.m. my time, 6 or 7 p.m. my time, which would be 9 or 10 Eastern. Sorry, guys, if that's late for you. I apologize. I just odd timing, and that's just about the time when I have some moments free in my life. So yeah, so look for that tomorrow. Let's say 6 o'clock Pacific. So I'll try and see you then. I'll give a little shout out. They allow you to like post updates, on your channel. I don't even know if you guys see that or not, but I'll try and post a little update, maybe 1 hour warning or something like that. Anyway, so let's get into some things. It is New Year's Day. Happy New Year's again. Just kind of some random things to read through today. So this is from all of these things are carryovers from last year. There's no real like breaking news today. And if there is, I'm totally missed it. So if there is something like wildly crazy happening that I don't know about, please hit me to it in the comments. This is from Biological Center for Biological Diversity from December 28th, 2018. 2018 on track to be a record-breaking year for Florida manatee deaths. Oops, hold on. Let's exit this full screen. Boat collisions, red tide are leading causes of fatalities from St. Petersburg, Florida. 2018 is on track to be a record-breaking year. At least 104 have been killed in this year, including more than 300 from boat strikes and toxic red tide. The previous record was set. So what are the other 500 killed from? Previous record was set in 2013, another bad red tide year, with 806 manatee deaths. Most years average 400 to 500 deaths. The bleak outlook comes a year after the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service downlisted the manatee from endangered to threatened, a decision that ignored a steady increase in manatee deaths over the past decade. It breaks my heart that we've lost so many of these gentle giants this year, said Jacqueline Lopez, Florida director at the Center for Biological Diversity. The worst part is that it's so preventable. We've got to do more to curb deaths from boat strikes and red tide. The toxic red tide was especially deadly during 2018, killing at least 209 manatees. There were so many dead manatees this year that researchers could not collect them and test them all. At least another 119 manatees were killed by boat collisions. Despite the alarming trend, the service and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers continue to authorize construction of thousands of projects that facilitate increased watercraft across or access to Florida waters. In December, the center joined with 2 other conservation groups to sue 3 federal agencies for failing to assess harm to Florida's wildlife, including the manatee, before approving ongoing toxic releases of Lake Okeechobee that likely feed the red tide. All right, I'm gonna link that below, and hold please. Okay, sorry, I was trying to look up something, didn't quite find it, but I've just got a bunch of really random, not random, but random-ish things to read tonight. Bits of flotsam and jetsam in the stream of environmental decay. This is from Huffington Post from From yesterday, New Year's Eve, Chuck Todd refuses to give airtime to climate deniers. Quote, the science is settled. We're not going to debate climate change, the existence of it. The earth is getting hotter and human activity is a major cause, period. In a special Meet the Press episode dedicated to global warming, NBC's Chuck Todd said he wouldn't indulge anyone who ignored the facts. The host delivered the message on a Sunday broadcast, which opened with footage of the destruction bred by fires and flooding. We're not going to give time to climate deniers, Todd said. The science is settled, even if political opinion is not. Todd also noted that there would be no discussion of whether the issue was, in fact, legitimate. We're not going to debate climate change, the existence of it. The earth is getting hotter and human activity is a major cause, period. Well, thank you, Chuck Todd. Way to just put it very simply. It isn't up for debate. There is too much evidence. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, whose interview was hyped well before the program aired, cautioned that any 2020 candidate for the Oval Office better darn well have a plan to tackle the environment. Oh, all right. Well, are Michael Bloomberg and myself on the same page? He has not yet ruled out seeking the presidency himself. The thing is that my request is that whoever runs for president in 2020, that climate change be their main platform. And along with that, the absolute retooling, revamping revolution of an entire revolution of our economy in order to actually deal with climate change. You cannot talk about the economy existing the way it exists or in the shape or the form that it exists without continuing to do damage to the climate. Obviously we can't, it's really hard to turn things on a dime, but if you're not talking about, having a 10-year or 20-year plan to absolutely, reconfigure, rethink, reimagine our entire global economy, then you're just not in the ballpark of reality. You're just not in the room of what it's going to take to actually combat the reality of our situation. Climate scientist Kate Marvel echoed Bloomberg's seriousness on the issue, citing California's devastating wildfires this year as a sign that President Donald Trump needed to wake up the country, wake up the world on just how critical the matter is. Okay, there's that. There's a video here, so you can watch that. I have not watched that. I'm just reading. Let's move on. It's an interesting piece. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but maybe just kind of skip and skim. This is from Forbes from yesterday. Galaxy may be littered with dead aliens blindsided by natural climate change. And I've read a few articles about this. Maybe I've read them on the channel. This is kind of picking up traction as an idea that if there's any other civilizations out in the galaxy, that they would have killed themselves the same way we're killing themselves, or that's how the theory goes. That they would have depleted their resources before they could figure out a way to get off the planet or something like that. Anyways, on the cusp of yet another trip around the sun, I found myself wondering how many alien civilizations within the sector of our Milky Way may have already come and gone. That is, bitten the dust due to wholly natural climate change long after their planet had sung its old lang syne. What is wrong with my help? As stars age, their luminosity increases over billions of years. Causing their habitable zones, the zones in which a terrestrial planet can have liquid water at its surface, to expand outward. Thus, extraterrestrial intelligence that happen to evolve on planets at the inner edges of their solar system's habitable zones might initially blossom into technological civilizations, but as their stars' luminosity increases over time, their planet would suffer a hellish climatological holocaust. Why is this important? In the next decade, we'll be peering at spectra, and sometimes images of extrasolar Venus-type planets that may or may not have harbored technological civilizations for 1,000 years at least, for a few thousand years at least. Stephen Kane, a planetary astrophysicist at the University of California, Riverside, told me. Would a putative alien civilization on a nearby habitable exovenus even be aware of such coming catastrophe? Not necessarily, says Kane. We are very fortunate to have a Venus in our solar system, essentially a planet the same size and mass as Earth, but at a much more advanced stage of planetary and atmospheric evolution than our own, says Kane. If we didn't have our Venus, some of my colleagues have said that then an advanced runaway greenhouse would have been extremely difficult to predict, said Kane. That's because, as he points out, the physics to make such predictions are very advanced, and in fact, even today's best atmosphere models have trouble accounting for Venus's current state. Even if an advanced civilization understood how stars evolve and that this evolution would have an adverse effect on their planet's ecosystem, says Kane, they might not understand the full implications of how environmentally hostile their planet would become. For exoplanets, the current detection methods are more sensitive to planets close to their host stars, meaning that we're better at discovering Venus analog than Earth analog, says Kane. We thus expect to be discovering and characterizing many runaway greenhouse planets in the coming years, he says, but some of these could have previously been habitable, says Kane. Estimates range from 400 million to 1 billion for the duration of clement conditions on Venus. 400 million years, or perhaps even 1 billion years of clement Venusian conditions are much too little for the evolution of a high-tech intelligent species. Dirk Schulz-Mackhook, an astrobiologist at Germany's Technical University of Berlin, told me. For Earth, intelligent life took roughly 4 billion years to evolve, says Kane, but he notes that there is a large range of stellar ages for the exovenus host stars he and colleagues have discovered, and they lie mostly in the 1 to 10 billion year range. So Kane thinks that many of these Venus-like planets will be more than 4 billion years old and could well have evolved intelligent life on them at some point. Venus has what is known as a stagnant lid surface, meaning that it's not broken up into plates like Earth's surface, but instead is mostly a solid surface ruptured by areas of volcanism, Kane explains. This means that Venus underwent a catastrophic resurfacing about 1 billion years ago. This likely largely erased any record of its surface conditions. We can gain insight from the evidence in the atmosphere, particularly isotopes that trace the presence of possible liquid water on the surface, said Kane, but it is difficult to know for certain. This uncertainty, he says, has led to a lot of speculation regarding our own Venus's past habitability, with some researchers contending that the planet may have had a temperate surface as recently as 1 billion years ago. Earth's own thermostat is sensitive to changes in temperature and CO2 levels and adjusts itself accordingly over million-year timescales, Kane explains. If geoengineering is used to compensate for breaking that delicate balance, he says, then that civilization will have to take over to maintain the planet's thermostatic cycle. Any disruption to their geoengineering efforts would immediately cause the planet to return its journey toward a runaway greenhouse. So they would see it coming, Kane says, but he says by that stage it's probably much easier to leave the planet than manually take over its geological processes. Kane's hope is that once things get desperate, such threatened alien civilizations would be able to move to another suitable terrestrial planet a bit farther out from their parent star. Okay. Maybe. Maybe not. Do we know or do we not? I'm going to say we don't know, but I don't know. There's a lot of people that think, we have plenty of knowledge of alien species and their their doings and comings and goings, and somehow that's all being kept a secret. I don't know. I personally have never seen nor seen enough evidence to really actually merit a belief that we are visited by alien species. But there's a lot of like ancient drawings. There's lots of ancient tales and fables and the Dogon and all that stuff. which is super, super interesting. Also, the idea that some people are lizard people is a super interesting concept, because some people actually do act like lizards, and they do act very, very strangely and non-human. But I still just don't. I just haven't seen enough to make me go, okay, sorry, that's just me. Other people may disagree, or may have totally different thoughts about that, or maybe you have some information and insight that I don't know yet. Some people think that the government knows that there's aliens and we're in contact, and that they're waiting for a big reveal, and that's going to be the final like false flag, right? Oh, there's aliens, and we gotta do all this martial law, and protect ourselves from this force, and that it's going to be the biggest like mind control event ever. I don't know. I'm just saying, this is what people say. This is not what I say. To all of that, I say, maybe. I just personally have not seen it. I haven't seen enough to go like, golly gee, of course. But whatever. People really, really are into that and bought into that. And that's cool if you are. I ain't mad at you. Moving on. So I'm going to read this. This is politically minded, but interesting nonetheless. First time I had ever heard of this was from Graham Elwood the other day. He was on the Jimmy Dore show. And he talked about a woman named Serena Shim, who is a reporter who died mysteriously after revealing that ISIS was being restocked or supplied by Turkey, by us by way of Turkey, basically. So she revealed, she's like, hey guys, I saw this happening, and then like, oh, she dies like a couple days later. So yeah, coincidences, there, some coincidences I believe in. There's a lot that are absolutely I do not believe in. Killing the Truth, in this article, first published by the Duran and GR in October 2016. Oh, the title is American Journalist Killed in Turkey for Revealing the Truth Regarding ISIS-Daesh. The journalist who exposed the truth regarding the state sponsors of ISIS-Daesh is killed. Who are the state sponsors of ISIS-Daesh? Although all signs point to foul play, indeed murder, by Turkish intelligence, until now, the U.S. government has neither conducted nor demanded an inquiry into the events of the alleged car accident which Turkish officials say was the cause of Shim's death, let alone offer condolences to the family. But we are so concerned about Khashoggi. And we should be. But what about Serena Shim? Serena Shim was at the time reporting on Ain El Arab Kobani from the Turkish side. She was, in her own words, one of the first, if not the first, on the ground to report on Takfiri militants going in through the Turkish border. These include not only ISIS, but also terrorists from the so-called Free Syrian Army. As Shim's sister, Free Syrian Army is who we were funding, like admittedly funding, right? As Shim's sister, Fatma Shim, stated in 2015, she caught them bringing in ISIS high-ranked members into Syria from Turkey into camps which are supposed to be Syrian refugee camps. Serena Shim's January 2013 expose, Turkey's pivotal role in Syria's insurgency, Press TV report from inside Turkey, showed footage of what she estimated to be 300 semi-trucks awaiting militants to empty them out, including testimony explaining how Turkey enables the crossing of foreign terrorists freely into Syria, spoke of the funneling of arms via the Incirlik U.S. airbase in Turkey to terrorists and refugee camps or on through to Syria, and highlighted the issue of terrorist training camps portrayed as refugee camps guarded by the Turkish military. Shim named the World Food Organization as one of the NGOs whose trucks were being used to funnel terrorist arms into Syria, and stated that this in her last interview just one day before being killed. Notably, in that interview, she also explicitly stated that she feared for her life because Turkish intelligence had accused her of being a spy, she told Press TV. Turkey has been labeled by Reporters Without Borders as the largest prison for journalists, so I'm a bit frightened about what they might use against me. I'm hoping that nothing is going to happen, that it's going to blow over. I would assume that they are going to take me in for questioning, and the next hope is that my lawyer is good enough to get me out as soon as possible. 2 days later, Press TV announced her death, stating Serena was killed in a reported car accident when she was returning from a report scene in the city of Surik in Turkey's Urfa province. She was going back to her hotel in Urfa when their car collided with a heavy vehicle. This was the official version of her death. Although in subsequent versions, the story changed. In a report 1 month later, Russia Today spoke with Shim's sister, who said there's so many different stories. The first one was that Serena's car was hit by a heavy vehicle, who proceeded to keep on driving. They could not find the vehicle, nor could they find the driver. 2 days later, surprisingly, they found the vehicle and the driver and had pictures of the heavy vehicle hitting my sister's car. Every day coming out with new pictures of different degrees of damage that have happened to the car. Anyways, interestingly enough, when ISIS was, controlling oil fields in Syria, there were lots of reports of them. The place through which they were selling this oil was through Turkey. And and apparently U.S. Or oil tankers that sell gas all over the world, oil all over the world. It's reported that we bought oil from, whoever was getting this oil through Turkey. So we were buying this, this oil that was stolen from Syria funneled through Turkey, and like, oh, thanks for the cheap oil, guys. Kind of a perfect like little scenario, right? ISIS runs in. We've got these oil fields now. Now we're selling this, oil on the black market. Oh, thanks, guys. Anyways, whatever. This is from a website called globalresearch.ca. I'll link it below. You guys can tell me what you think about this. But anyways, that was an interesting. Had never heard of Serena Shim. Okay, so I'm going to read this another list. Hopefully the last one I'll read going into the new year. 44 numbers from 2018 that are almost too crazy to believe. Was 2018 everything you expected it to be? Every year contains surprises, but 2018 truly turned out to be a year that we will never forget. Over the past 12 months, we witnessed great political shaking. Wall Street experienced the worst downturn that we have seen since 2008. The crust of our planet was rattled by an increasing number of major seismic events. Social decay spread like wildfire, and so did wildfires. America continued to become even more divided as a nation. In comparison, 2017 was rather bland and boring, was it? And I truly believe that one day we will look back on 2018 as a major turning point. It is amazing that 12 months have flown by already. It seems like the years just keep getting faster, and perhaps that is because we are all getting older. In any event, the following are 44 numbers from 2018 that are almost too crazy to believe. Number one study found that the average American spends 86 hours a month on the cell phone. Is that looking, talking? I don't know. Different study discovered that 37% of all Americans have eaten fast food within the last 24 hours. 90% of the beer that Americans drink is produced by just 2 gigantic corporations. McDonald's feeds approximately 70 million people a day globally. Pornhub gets more than 78 million visits a day. 5, 60% of all Americans actually believe they have seen a ghost. 6, the middle class continues to decline, and at this point, half of all American workers make less than $30,533 a year, and that is straight up poverty in 2018. $30,000 a year ain't. You can barely live on that. You're definitely lower middle class if if you think you're in the middle class and you make $30,000 a year. 7, during the 2018 midterm elections, Democrats were able to pick up 40 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Those that were forecasting a red tsunami were completely and totally wrong. Thankfully. Number 8, Kevin Spacey's incredibly creepy YouTube video entitled "Let Me Be Frank." Have you guys seen this video? It's about as creepy as it gets, in which he promises that he will never be held accountable for his actions, has already been viewed more than 8 million times. Number 9, since 2007, the total amount of student loan debt in America has nearly tripled. Number 10, the suicide rate in the United States has risen by 33% since 1999. 11, suicide is now the second leading cause of death for Americans from age 15 to age 24. Wow. Number 12, Netflix recently made a deal to renew streaming of Friends for another year for $100 million. Okay. 13, according to the United Nations Population Fund, 40% of all births in the U.S. now happen outside of marriage. But if you go back to 1970, that figure was sitting at just 10%. 14, 13 million households in the United States do not always have enough food to eat. So if you have enough food to eat every day, you should consider yourself to be very blessed. 15, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, almost 1 out of every 4 children in rural areas is currently living in poverty. 16, at this point, almost 52% of all children living in a home that receives monthly help. 52% of all children live in a home that receives monthly help from the federal government. That's a lot of people. Excuse me. 17, over 500,000 people are homeless in the United States right now. 18, today, 1 million Americans are living in their RVs, and that number is rising with each passing year. 19, social decay is clearly evident even in our most prosperous cities. One recent investigation found 300 piles of human feces on the streets of downtown San Francisco. 20, 62% of all U.S. jobs do not pay enough to support a middle-class lifestyle. 62% of all U.S. jobs. 21, in 1980, the average American worker's debt was 1.96 times larger than his or her monthly salary. Today, the number has ballooned to 5 times larger. 22, over half the country now receives more in government transfer payments than they pay in taxes. 23, according to one recent study, the rate of people 65 and older filing for bankruptcy is 3 times what it was in 1991. So let's cut Social Security some more, guys. 24, more than 100 churches in the United States are dying every single week. 25, if you go back to 1986, just 10% of all young adults were religiously unaffiliated. But now that number has jumped all the way to 39%. 26, according to one recent survey, Americans from the age of 18 to the age of 29 favor Democrats over Republicans by a 66% to 32% margin. Well, they favor Democrats, but so Democrats should probably put up somebody that they want to vote for. These Americans age 18 to 29. 27, yeah, anyways. 27, one study found that 1/3 of all American teenagers haven't read a single book in the past year. The number of married couples with children in the U.S. just reached a 56-year low. In the city of Baltimore, approximately 1 out of every 4 babies is born as an opioid addict. 30, according to the New York Times, approximately 110 million Americans have a sexually transmitted disease right now. That's 1/3 of our population. Yikes. 31, it is being projected that the total amount of plastic in the oceans of the world will exceed the total weight of all fish by the year 2050. 32, 90% of all seabirds in the world now have plastic in their stomachs. Back in 1960, that number was sitting at just 5%. So 5 to, oops, excuse me, microphone, 5 to 90. 33, in August, we learned that the number of global earthquakes over the last 30 days has risen to a level that was 50% above normal. Lots of seismic activity. In 34 in September, an all-time record high, 7 named storms were swirling across the globe simultaneously. Another, yes, broke that record this year. 35 in October, we witnessed the third largest single-day point crash in stock market history on the exact same day that the third most powerful hurricane in U.S. history made landfall. 36 in November, the campfire destroyed 14,000 homes and businesses in Northern California. It was the most destructive wildfire in the history of the state. 37, according to the official Twitter account of Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire, they have had wind chills of between -70 and -75 degrees on Thanksgiving morning. Ooh, that's brisk. Can you see my breath? Oh, maybe it warmed up like 1 degree in here, but it's cold outside. It's cold enough to see the breath in Southern California. 38, in the aftermath of the magnitude 7.0 earthquake that rattled Anchorage, the state of Alaska was shaken by more than 1,400 earthquakes. 39, in early December, the largest earthquake in 45 years hit eastern Tennessee. 40, during the last week, full week before Christmas, the Dow fell 1,655 points. That was the worst week for the stock market since the financial crisis of 2008. Uh-oh. Number 41, the National Retail Federation was projecting that total Christmas spending would surpass $465 trillion in 2018. Only 25 countries on the entire planet have a GDP that is greater than that number. Excuse me. Is that $1 billion or trillion? Excuse me. It was $1 billion, not trillion. 465 trillion. It couldn't possibly be trillion. What's the total world GDP? Hey, let's find out because we have Google. Hold on. Right, the world GDP is $80 trillion. So yes, there's no way that could be possibly possible. So yes, sorry. The National Retail Federation was projecting that the total Christmas spending would surpass $465 billion in 2018. That's still a whole lot of billions. Number 42. In 2017, the Dow was either up or down by 1% or more just 8 times. In 2018, it happened 64 times. Volatility has returned to Wall Street in a major way, and that is a really bad sign. 43, a recent survey of corporate financial officers discovered that 82% of them believe that a recession will have started by the end of 2020. And there are a few financial advisors right now that are screaming fire, basically. 44. During 2018, the U.S. national debt increased by nearly $1.4 trillion. We are now almost $22 trillion in debt, and there is no end to our debt problems on the horizon. And that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Tomorrow night, live stream, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope you all can join me, and I will see you then. Peace.